afternoon, good people. Karibu sana. I am so excited. We are playing love songs this afternoon because for sure the greatest of them all is love. And we're here to love our customers. We are here to love our internal customers. We are here to love ourselves. We are here to create happiness. Ah, what a beautiful, beautiful Monday morning. Karibu, welcome. Please introduce yourself in the chat. Who are you? Where are you from? Where are you dialing in from? What do you want us to know about you? What do you want us to support you with? You never know. Your next customer could be here. Your next partner could be here. The next divine connector, door opener, divine helper could be here. So type in the chat. Type in the chat. We are here for our monthly dose of good things, all things customer experience, all things employee experience. And this time we are responding to what you asked us about. There was lots and lots of questions around how do we handle challenging customer situations? How do we handle customers who try us, who give us character development with a K? Not the usual character, with a K, capital K. How do we handle that? Where is the role of emotional intelligence in all of this? And so we have decided to feed you this well-cooked, well-marinated, well-seasoned, well-prepared meal this afternoon. And let us just dive right into it and discuss these things. And so who do we have in the house? Who do we have in the house to respond to this? Who do we have in the house to talk to us about this? Who do we have in the house to feed our curiosity on all things emotional intelligence for handling challenging customer situations? And you remember, we are calling them situations, not customers. Because sometimes we say that challenging customer, that difficult customer, that we label the customers. And when you label somebody, you have a stereotype around them, you stigmatize them, you have an attitude formed towards them, whether you know it or you don't. And like, this is that Sumbua customer, this is that difficult customer. So it's a situation that's difficult because something has presented itself, a conflict possibly, a misunderstanding, a miscommunication. And so therefore, it's challenging customer situation. So we want to talk about that. We want to talk about internal customer. We want to talk about external customer. We want to talk about happiness. We want to talk about many things. And we have Rose Karaoke in the house. Now, what do I possibly tell you about Rose Karaoke? Rose Karaoke loves people. She loves people. She wakes up people, sleeps people, dreams people. Everything around her is just how does she get people to be the very best that they can be? And I'm such a beneficiary of that. Rose is always asking me hard questions. Rose is always challenging me. Rose is always calling me out. Rose is always feeding me information. I'm just so blessed to have this woman in my life and for her to just care about me the way she does and care about my greatness. So if you think I have any iota of greatness in me, you can see the kind of people I have in my life that feed me that. And so Rose has over 25 years experience in people development, learning and development, curriculum development, leadership development, people development. She just wants people to shine, to flourish, to live holistic lives. This is Rose. This is our Rose. My Rose. I have owned you, Rose. This is my Rose in the house. And so it is my absolute pleasure this afternoon to introduce you to Rose. You had sent in your questions. She'll be very happy to respond to them. And so, Rose, please take it away. Talk to us. We are so ready to hear about emotional intelligence and how to handle challenging customer situations internally and externally. Welcome, Rose. Let me send you some love. Can you see the amount of love coming through, Rose? Love you, love you. Over to you, dear ones. Here is Rose Karaoke.
Thank you so much. Thank you for such a warm welcome. I hope I'm very audible. I'm ensuring I'm on full volume.
Yes,
And
yes.
yes, Carol knows how passionate I am about emotional intelligence, about all things happiness, Yeah, in work, in the social space, everywhere. Yeah. And it's quite a huge topic to speak about for just half an hour because we need to have time for questions and answers. And so feel free to write your questions in the chat box, and Carol will help me moderate those. And as always, when we speak about emotional intelligence, it's so important that we make sure that we are in the right, I mean, we're in the same page. And this will be an interactive session. So I will be asking you my first question. What is emotional intelligence? What is emotional intelligence? Feel free to put it in the chat box or you can unmute and speak. What, in your view, is emotional intelligence? Because sometimes this can look like a very abstract concept. Anyone want to try? Feel free to also put it in the chat box.
All right, I think I can go fast, Rose, as we wait for the
Mhm.
chat box. I think
Sure.
emotional intelligence is just lack of stupidity. If I lack stupidity, I surely must be emotionally intelligent. I think that's the simplest thing that comes to my mind. But let's see what is coming through in the chat. I hope you're chatting
Mm,
or you will
mhm.
unmute and tell us. I don't know what you think about that, Rose.
Lack of stupidity. Whew. I can really unpack that because lack of stupidity in what, you know? And what you mean by stupidity? You know, if we now start dissecting all those things, Let's see. I'm seeing some things coming through in the chat box. So Kevina says ability to manage your emotions and your reaction to those of others. I love it. I love it very much. Yeah. Um, I think Ruth is introducing yourself.
Yes,
Karibu, Ruth.
yes, she is.
Uh-huh. Now I'm going to pick on people I know who are in the session so that we can get this show on the road. Anne Kagali, hi Anne. It's been a minute. Would love to hear from you. What is your opinion? What is emotional intelligence in your view? Let's see.
I am in a noisy place,
Uh,
but I hope I am audible enough. So, to me,
mm,
emotional intelligence
mm-hmm,
is the ability just to be able to read the room, the environment, the
mm-hmm.
people.
Absolutely, absolutely. Being able to read the room is spot on. Let's see, some definitions have disappeared after Carol gave her lack of stupidity one. So let's see. So Donna says acknowledging emotions of others. I love that. Acknowledging, not reacting, responding with care and kindness, ability to manage one's emotions and the relationship to others. Very true. Ability to perceive the emotions of others and our own, also spot on. Ability to manage your emotions and those around us. So we can manage our own. We shall be speaking about what do we do with other people's emotions. Ability to read emotions, how one manages and articulates their feelings and emotions with regards to others. Okay, so I can see that we are on the same page. Yeah. And I'm just going to give you my favorite definition. It's an adaptation from Daniel Goleman, the father of emotional intelligence. And I really love this particular one because it's simple. So emotional intelligence has two sides. So there's the self and there's the other. Yeah. So the first bullet point really talks about the self. Yeah. So it's the ability to recognize, understand, and manage one's emotions. Yeah. So Carol was appealing more to logic. Yeah. And logic does have a place in emotional intelligence, but I'll come to that. Yeah. And the second part is very similar with a slight twist at the end. Yeah, that it's the ability to recognize, understand, and influence other people's emotions. So we cannot manage other people's emotions, not even our children. Yeah, not even our loved ones. Yeah, because when it comes to other people, they're in a different domain. Yeah, and it is for personal and professional success. I believe, Ruth, you said that emotions should work for you and not against you. And that's true. And so the acronym that I like to use, I like to have all these little tricks of memory because I'm at that age where I forget even my own name, is Rumi. Recognize, understand, manage, and influence. So a couple of things that I need to mention. One, emotions are data. Yeah. So it's like messages coming from you to you. Very important. Yeah. So if you're feeling something, there is something going on. It's energy in motion, and that energy is telling you, that's what's in front of you is pleasurable. What's in front of you is going to make you succeed. Or what's in front of you is a threat, is a block, is something you should be afraid of, and so on. So emotions are just that, data. They're no bad or good emotions. And I think we know that, but sometimes we judge, we demonize people who show emotion. So it's a question of how do you communicate that emotion. The other thing is I must address what Carol talked about, stupidity. Very strong word. Yeah. And really, what is the place of intelligence or rationality and emotions? And really, we need to understand how the brain is wired. So I normally like to give this biology lesson because it helps us understand. Yeah. So all of us human beings are emotional beings. And a big chunk of our brain, this back part that I'm tapping on, deals with emotions. So it's the limbic part of the brain or the reptilian brain, or if you're a bit more into neuroscience, is where we find a little part of the brain called the amygdala. It's like the size of a small bean, or the size of an almond, that helps us to regulate and helps to sense our emotions. So it is really the center of survival. So the brain is wired in such a way that we are wired, we are programmed to avoid pain and gravitate towards pleasure. And then once that part of the brain has registered what is going on, is this pleasurable? Is this a threat? Is this enjoyable? Is this something? Is this a challenge? What is it? Then we come to the prefrontal cortex here, the front of the brain, the thinking part of the brain. Now, the more emotionally intelligent you are, coming to Carol's point, the more these two parts speak to each other. So the feeling brain and the thinking brain. However, there is a disclaimer. There is a disclaimer. When we are under extreme emotion, and it can be positive emotion, extremely happy, excited, or extremely sad or anxious, it is very, very difficult to regulate ourselves, and we experience what is known as amygdala hijack. So what happens is that part of the brain, the feeling part of the brain, hijacks the thinking part of the brain and goes into motion. So I want you to imagine that wherever you are seated, and I hope I'm not going to trigger anybody, a snake slithers into your room, and you feel something touching your toe, and you look and you notice, a big black python, Are you going to start analyzing even the most logical verse? Size of the python, where could it possibly have come? What breed is it? Is it an Omieri? I mean, you're not going to do all those things. You are going to take off in the nearest window, and I'll be left here speaking to myself. And that's the whole thing, that the amygdala, emotions are designed to help us survive. They are designed to help us keep safe. And so when we encounter situations in life, when we encounter either a customer or we encounter a colleague, who behaves in a way that is threatening, then we react, if we don't pause, And according to some scientists, we feel strong emotion either for 6 to 10 seconds. And therefore, we need to pause and allow our parasympathetic system, our body, to calm down before we can respond. And this is also inclusive of extremely happy emotions. They say that there's no one as deaf as a man with money and a woman in love. Favorite quote, absolutely. Yeah. So I can go on and on. So that is just the basics of emotional intelligence. Yeah. So what are the stages? And there's so many different frameworks, so many. And I really like the simpler, the better. Yeah. So thinking back to our definition, there are actually two major competencies. Yeah. Personal competence and social competence. So at the level of the self, yeah, the the person who is really emotionally intelligent, yeah, is one who has a high level of of self-awareness and a high level of self-management. So are you able to recognize what you are feeling at any given time? Do you know what cues your body is giving you? Yeah. Or your sensations are giving you? Because sometimes we are not aware at all. Yeah. So are we able to acknowledge how we are feeling? Are we able to recognize what we are feeling? And also, are we able to acknowledge our weaknesses, our strengths, our triggers, our attitude, our biases? Because many times we are not responding to reality, we are responding to interpretations. Yeah, and so it's the emotional intelligence of knowing the difference. Yeah. And then once we are able to recognize this, yeah, and of course, how well you're able to recognize this will determine the management, yeah, because you can't manage what you don't know, yeah. Then do we know how to self-soothe? So important. So children know how to self-soothe. They get a stuffed animal, they cry, they run to mommy, they do different things. But it's like we lose that ability as we become adults, yeah. And or sometimes we self-soothe in ways that are not healthy. Yeah. So like abusing caffeine. I can assure you this is one of my this is one of the reasons why I don't have a wasp waist, because I drink far too many cups of tea when I'm a bit stressed. Yeah. So self-soothing, you know. So very important to know, do I need to take a walk? Do I need to take a glass of water if I'm feeling triggered? You know, do I need to sleep? Yeah. Do I need to change my mattress? It's so funny. Lately, people have been saying that, you know how that you've made it when you can buy a good mattress, and a good mattress can be 30 to 50,000 shillings. A good night's sleep is very important for emotional management. If you do not sleep well, your body will prioritize the physical survival, and you'll be reacting all over the place to people. Yeah. And also just being aware and acknowledging where we are at. Yeah. Um, our current situation, yeah, is that people are very stressed. Yeah. There are so many cases in the media of violence and deaths. Yeah. And people are stretched. Yeah. So just being aware of that. Yeah. Um, Currently with my friend circle, we're going through menopause. Yeah. And menopause comes with all sorts of challenges. Yeah. But it's not just about hot flashes. There are all sorts of, emotional upheavals and physical changes and all that. Yeah. And sometimes even feeling angry for no reason. And it's just the estrogen that has dipped, and your body is in shock and wondering what's happening. So just being aware of where am I at? Yeah, that is at the level of self. Yeah, what are you going through? What kind of season are you? Is it at the end of the month? Yeah, where you have reports, where you have presentations, and you have these customers coming at you, and maybe they're not even being that aggressive, but you're already in a tense situation. So that's the self-management. Then the second competence, yeah, is social competence, yeah, with regards to others, yeah. And you can see self-management is countered by social management, and social awareness, self-awareness, yeah. And the interesting thing is that sometimes we sacrifice our self-management and self-awareness, yeah, for social management and social awareness, but I'm getting ahead of myself, yeah. So are we able to read the room? And I think that was mentioned a great deal. Yeah. How adept are we at reading body language? Because sometimes we rely so much on the words that are said. Yeah. And we miss out on over 90% of the communication. Yeah. There's a fantastic resource that I bumped into the other day. I'll put it in the chat box because it doesn't come. But I remember the title of the book is What Everybody is Saying, and body as in the physical body. And he talks about how, as FBI, he's able to read the emotions of people. Yeah. And just even looking at people's facial expressions and even wrinkles. Yeah. So if you find someone with a deep wrinkle here, is that they tend to worry a great deal. Or someone with deep furrows here is that they tend to have a lot of social anxiety and they look for approval. I found it very interesting. Yeah. So we even age, yeah, based on our emotions. Yeah. So are we able to read the room? Are we able to read the energy of the person who is speaking? Yeah. Their posture, how close they stand, where their feet are facing, and so on. It's a whole science, which I love very much. Yeah. And because this really helps us to understand then what do they need. Yeah. And once we are able to recognize and understand what they are feeling, what they're communicating, yeah, then are we able to adapt our messages accordingly and build rapport? Are we able to connect with them? Because that is what will help us develop trust and influence. Remember, Rumi? Yeah. So the highest level of EI, yeah, or EQ, yeah, is our ability to influence. And we talk about how leadership is about influence, and it's the same thing with customer interactions. Yeah. So let's get into the practicalities, yeah, because I can get carried away by frameworks, but they're very important for helping us understand. Yeah. But before I do, any questions or clarifications before I move from here? And feel free to put it in the chat box. I'm happy to revisit this. So whenever we are faced with a customer situation, and thank you, Carol. Yeah, as a customer situation, not a persona, not a sumbua. Yeah. Whenever we are faced with a customer situation, we need to ask ourselves, yeah, what does this customer need? Yeah. And whenever we're thinking about that, we need to keep in mind that there are two basic needs. I'm really keeping it simple. There is the functional or practical need. What did they come for? Or why are you even having this interaction with this customer? Do they have a problem? Do they have a pain point? Are they coming here for a service? Yeah. Is it a product? What is it? Yeah. So there are questions that I had received earlier, so I will refer to them. Yeah. So one of the questions I received was from someone from insurance. And I've worked in insurance before, although I was in HR, but I can assure you, in my L&D world, we had to deal with these issues. Yeah. So one of the questions I dealt with was, what do you do in a situation where a customer has an insurance death claim that takes 7 days to be processed, but refuses to leave the office unless it is paid? And yet they've just come, They have just arrived. Yeah. So the functional need of this customer here is money. Yeah. So they've lost somebody. They need money because funerals can be expensive. And depending on the part of the country you come from, it's very expensive. Yeah. So that's just the practical or functional need. But what about at an emotional level? Because a lot of times we people who are in the service industry, we focus here. But we've moved from service, we're going even beyond experience, we're going to customer advocacy, yeah, and personalization and all those things, yeah. And we need to ask ourselves, yeah, at a human level, what does this person need? So there's the emotional need. So this is someone who is grieving. This is someone who has experienced a loss. This is someone who is in pain. This is someone who's probably even anxious about the future. If they're coming for a claim, yeah, it means this is someone who is close to the deceased. Maybe they were even a beneficiary. Yeah. There was another question around how do you handle a customer who is very rude and insulting and being aggressive? Yeah. So we are talking about their emotional needs here. And I'm going to get into another one, yeah, another framework that can really help us to talk at length, yeah. Um, to talk at length about the different challenges. Yeah. So what you are seeing is the grieving customer, yeah, who wants their claim paid. Yeah. I've heard of situations where it was in Kisii County. They showed up with a coffin at the office. Yeah. And they wanted to be paid there and then. Yeah. A friend of mine was telling me how they come with lawyers, yeah, with their lawyer to the office. Yeah. But what is happening below the surface that we're not seeing? Yeah. It's all their need to be heard, their need to be reassured, their sadness, their anger, their fear, their need for attention, yeah, their need for respect, their need for reassurance, whatever it is. Yeah. But many times, what do we do in the service industry? We go straight to the functional need. First of all, we give the perfunctory, we apologize. I can tell you it's one thing that really, really triggers me because I can tell it's just, it has no feeling. Yeah. We need to acknowledge how that person is feeling. We need to tap into what's below the surface because the behavior is just the tip of the iceberg. Yeah. What they came for is just the tip of the iceberg. So the first thing is to always ask ourselves, what does this person need? Yeah. They've just lost a loved one. Yeah. They are highly emotional. They're in survival mode. They are probably at the amygdala has hijacked them. Yeah. And we need to acknowledge how they're feeling. We need to acknowledge how inconvenienced they must feel. You need to acknowledge all these things before you can appeal to their logical brain. And that means that when we are dealing with customer interactions, we have to remove the self from the equation at that point. Yeah. And we need to acknowledge to ourselves that this is not about me. This person is not angry at me. This person is not ranting at me. They're angry at the situation. They're angry with what's happening around them. We don't know. Yeah. But it's not about me. Yeah. So this always really helps. We need to always ask ourselves, what is the unmet need of this person who is in front of me? Yeah. And how well we're able to navigate this increases our emotional intelligence because emotional intelligence is a muscle. Yeah. Now I saw a question that was in the chat. The rest of the questions we'll address at the end so that there's a bit of order. Yeah. How do you know your level of emotional intelligence? A very good question. Yeah. So apart from some of the tools that we're discussing here, yeah, a couple of things. One, there's a self-assessment. Yeah. So there are lots of tools online. You can assess yourself. There's also daily self-reflection of asking yourself, how did I respond to situations today, especially the stressful ones? Yeah. What did I do well? What could I have done differently? What worked? Yeah. And the second part, which is tough but really worthwhile, is to seek feedback, especially from people who know us well, yeah, and who love us, yeah. People who know us well will give us feedback sometimes even without asking. Yeah, Carol gives me feedback all the time, and sometimes I'm like, no, 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 no. But yeah, I know it's coming from a good place, and I reflect about it, and I'm like, yeah, I need to do something about that. So I hope that answers your question. So very important, yeah, not to look at just surface behavior. Ask ourselves, what could be happening? Yeah. And sometimes you can see sometimes there's hunger here. There's the developmental level. Yeah. So I live with an older parent and I can tell you, I can see, yeah, people for herself and people her age, yeah, there are some issues that they deal with that we don't deal with. Yeah. So like I had to take her to my mother to the clinic yesterday. And I can tell you when an older person is unwell, yeah, they begin thinking about their life, their mortality. And as we are a bit younger, yeah, and we think we have a bit of a longer time, we don't think about it like that. Yeah. Maybe at your level, your issues have to do more with security, yeah, financial or otherwise. Yeah. So we are all at different levels, and those determine our needs. Uh the other thing around emotional intelligence is dealing with the internal customer. So I've talked a little bit about the external customer. And I thought, let me talk about the internal customer because of some of the questions that came through. And one, I think, of the biggest stakeholders or the make or break internal customers is your line manager or people who are in senior management. Yeah. And how do you deal with them? Usually the ones who are cooperative, who are, well balanced, are normally not an issue. Yeah. So the issue comes when you are dealing with toxic traits, yeah, or toxic characters. Yeah. Um, and sometimes, unfortunately, the corporate world can really, really reward this. So there are many frameworks around it, and I say this having had the experience of having several toxic bosses. I've had good ones. And I've also had some toxic ones. But frameworks always help us to understand, what am I dealing with? So I like to always put my sources. So this source is the Harvard Business Review. And I liked it because it really categorized these different toxic behaviors. So there are 3 types of toxic manager traits. Yeah. So there are those who the traits of that distance themselves. There are people who feel that because they're in a position of power, they need to maintain a certain level of distance. Yeah. So you'll have the cautious boss, the overly cautious boss. Yeah. And so they don't want to take feedback. Yeah. They tend to overanalyze things. They take long to make decisions. Yeah. They like to do things the way they've always been done. They don't want any innovations. Yeah. And it can be very frustrating, especially if you're more, um, if you are more prone towards taking risks and changing things and being more creative. Yeah. And so as an employee, as someone who's reporting to them, it's important to take them slowly. Yeah. Because when it comes to people who are senior, we cannot control them, we cannot manage them, we can only influence them. Yeah. So these kind of people, they are cautious, they have a higher level of risk, or rather they have a lower appetite for risk. Yeah. So take them slowly. Yeah. And whenever you're looking at it as a situation, perhaps sell to them, yeah, what could go wrong if they don't take the innovation. Ooh, I hope I'm not going to run out of time. Okay, the other thing is the excitable ones. Now, you have those ones who have extreme mood swings. You don't know who you're going to meet on Monday versus on Wednesday versus on Friday. Yeah. And sometimes they bully you, they harass you. And the trick with these ones is stay calm, de-escalate. Yeah, give them time to calm down. Normally, these things don't last very long. So very, very important. Yeah, that you don't respond. Yeah, with your own arsenal. Yeah, very, very important. The other thing is the leisurely. Oh my God, I had a leisurely boss. You can't even see I'm touching my face. That is where the nerve endings are, because just remembering her makes me feel stressed. Yeah. So these are people who, are very relaxed, hakuna matata kind of people. They avoid problems, they're passive aggressive. You try to reach them, they don't reach you, they don't respond to emails. I remember we used to have a 3-pronged approach when we wanted our boss. Yeah. We'd write an email, then follow it up with a WhatsApp, then call. So when she would see the call, and then she would know, because she was busy doing her own other things. Yeah. Again, this is the other type who you can't push. Yeah. You have to wait until they're in a good mood, and you need to really tap into what's important to them. You notice the trends are the same, is what is important to this person. Yeah. So if it's something that will affect their comfort, then appeal to that. Yeah. Same thing with people who are reserved. Yeah. So these are bosses who they don't want to spend time with the team. They're disinterested. They're not even, they're a bit insensitive. Then email them. Yeah. Or they're hard to read. Email them. Yeah. Use more formal forms of communication. Yeah. And last but not least, the skeptical boss. Oh, I've dealt with that. Yeah. You need to have your data correct. So whenever you're dealing with a toxic boss or a toxic coworker, ask yourself, what is important to them? Yeah. What matters to them? And appeal to that. What is their communication style? Mirror that. Yeah. The other type is the seductive. I know it sounds funny. Yeah. But there are people who lead. Yeah. The people who lead either by, showing who's boss here, yeah, by being showing some drama. There always it's a presentation. I don't know if you have seen it in workplaces, yeah. Or they're constantly having all sorts of ideas, yeah. Or, they can be very charming and take quite some risks, yeah. So with each of these, you have to be careful, yeah. So I would say that the most dangerous of the seductive is the mischievous one, yeah, because they tend to play a lot of politics. So you also have to play along, yeah. Be very careful with them, yeah. Read the room, yeah. When it comes to the imaginative ones, yeah, go along for the road, but just know you need to know what is the bigger picture, yeah, and where is the follow through, because they don't follow through, yeah. And for the ones who are bold and colorful, allow them to take the spotlight, yeah. I'll clap for them because that's what they are. Basically, their need there is recognition. And finally, we have the ingratiating ones. Well, I don't even know which ones are more toxic. The ones who never say no to top management, and then you're the one who has to take the heat. Yeah. So those who are, so the diligent ones tend to be micromanaging. Yeah. Very high standards. I had a boss who would actually even print out my email and, use a red pen to show where I could have communicated differently. Yeah. So you have to have very high standards when you're dealing with such managers, because otherwise you don't survive. Again, yeah, what is their need? Yeah, they fear failure. There's perfectionism normally comes with fear. So ensure that they feel safe, that your work is up to standard. And the ones who are dutiful, who just want to please, yeah, please, yeah, show yourself as loyal, yeah, and make them look good. So those are the different types of toxic manager traits. I thought the final one that I could deal with was toxic colleagues, because sometimes your boss is good, but your colleagues are not. Yeah. I'll put it right there. So there's the gossip, the slacker, the bully, the drama queen. Actually, the only drama queens are no kings. Kings are not dramatic. The saboteur, the negative Nancy, the know-it-all, and the manipulator. And for these ones, I just have 4 things. Boundaries, yeah. Make your boundaries very clear. Give feedback, yeah. Especially when it comes to bullies and to slackers, seek support, yeah. Seek support either of your line manager or HR, depending on the criticality of the issue, or walk away, yeah. When it comes to conflict, yeah, you can either address it directly, you can address it indirectly, you can walk away, yeah. You can exit the relationship. It all depends on the situation, yeah. But we should do something about it. Now, I've talked and talked. I'm not used to this. So the final thing is the topic of today, yeah, was, what was the topic? It was a very long topic, yeah. The topic of today also had to talk about, so we talked about emotional intelligence for CX excellence, and also how do we cultivate happiness at work and in business. Yeah, how do we cultivate? And I think this is the final question I want us to respond to. Yeah. What is your definition of happiness? Because the reason why we are even in this webinar, the reason why we want to know how to handle these situations is because we want to increase our level of happiness, both at home and personal. I mean, at work and, socially. Yeah. So what is your definition of happiness? Yeah. If you can put it in the chat box. Yeah. And then I will open up the floor for questions. Yeah. What is your definition of happiness? Yeah, I can start with mine. So I really thought, I think at the developmental stage that I've reached here, which is middle age, is I'm really beginning to appreciate contentment. So for me, happiness at the moment is being satisfied with the present, not complacent, but satisfied, being grateful, yeah, for the things that I have. Yeah. So that's my definition of happiness. Yeah. What's your definition? Yeah. What's your definition? Yeah, if you can put it in the chat box or unmute and speak. Carol, as usual, I'll count on you to give me your definition.
Yeah. Even before my definition of happiness, which I'm thinking through right now, Rose, and
Yes,
I'm trying to figure out what does happiness really mean to me.
yes,
I'm
yes.
thinking how there was a question here around this is not about my customer, but about
Mm.
my boss. Or is my
Ah.
boss my customer? Very toxic
Mm.
person, always putting me down and talking badly. That question came through, and I think you have touched on, you have actually spoken into it.
Mm-hmm.
But that
Mm.
part of putting me down and
Yeah,
talking badly to me, I
yeah,
think even person, I'm triggered. That question has
yeah,
triggered me because, like you, I have
yeah.
remembered some toxic boss
I
that also
remember him.
almost, yes, you remember him. You remember clearly. You do remember. So
I
how do we
remember
handle
him. Oh my
that
gosh.
part? Yeah, you are stressed on my behalf. I
Yes,
can
I was.
see. You
And
can
you can see the
see.
stress is coming back
Yes,
and the shouting
PTSD.
and all that.
Yes,
So
yes.
what
So
I've
how do
learned
you
is
handle
that
that part? Yeah.
let me speak into that one. I'm very passionate about this. I think it's important. Bosses can be trained. It's something I have learned. Um, Bosses can be trained. And what I've learned is, okay, I've done some radical things. I may not I may not advise, but I think it's important to find out, to ask them, yeah, when you've both calmed down, yeah, to ask as if you're asking for advice, yeah, to say, I've noticed that you've mentioned this, and this in the past, yeah, that cast me in a very negative light, yeah. What can I do to improve, or what would you like to see? So it's very important, because if they are criticizing you, they're clearly unhappy about something, but they've not had the guts to tell you in person. So create that opportunity for them, yeah. And the truth is, they may or may not tell you, but at least you have pointed it out. You have pointed it out. Yeah. I remember doing a presentation. I'll never forget this because I was sleep deprived. Perhaps that's what gave me the guts to do what I did. Yeah. And it was a presentation. We were preparing for, these insurance awards. So it was a very high stakes presentation, and the CEO was there and everybody was there. And I'm on slide number 2. I've just started. And the CEO was like, I would have expected to see. And I'm thinking, I've not even shown you anything. I'm on slide 2. And I go to slide 3 and he starts saying that. And I said, if you allow me, you will see what you're expecting. Yeah. It came out a bit sharply because I was as I mentioned, I was sleep deprived. But he handled me very differently after that. Very differently. So, sometimes we get so timid and we forget that managers are people too. Yeah. So we need to give feedback in a nice way. Yeah. And of course, with wisdom, we need to know. Let's see. I thought I also saw another question around bosses so that I don't get derailed with the happiness story. And then we'll come back to our happiness story. How can you approach a manager in case you have committed a mistake? You wanted to ask for forgiveness, given that you have committed that mistake repeatedly. Um, I think always admitting to your mistake is a very big thing. Timing is everything. Ooh, timing. Yeah. So first of all, ensure that they're in the right frame of mind. Secondly, you need to identify how come you have repeated that mistake. What's going on? Is it a skill issue? Is it a context issue? Yeah. What support is it that you need? What solutions have you seen? Yeah. Could be helpful. Yeah. Because if you're making the same mistake over and over, over and over again, yeah, it definitely means that you need support somewhere. Yeah. But I think it's really great when you preempt that conversation, because bosses hate surprises. I don't know about you, but it's terrible to discover somebody has made a mistake. Yeah. Is there another question around the boss issue or toxic colleague issue
No
before I
question,
go into
just a
happiness?
comment right there about way, and the way has double E, so it is a real way. Those toxics from Joe, those toxic bosses
Yeah,
can cause nightmares to date. So he's just
absolutely.
commiserating with this whole situation.
Yes.
The rest are definitions of
Okay.
happiness. Such nice
Yeah,
ones. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And you know, Joe, you're spot on, eh? There's actually an institute, my memory today, but there's an institute committed to against workplace bullying. Workplace bullying, either by bosses or by colleagues, can actually cause PTSD. You know, we think PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, is only caused in the war zone. It's not. Yeah, you can get it from relationships, and I think the relationship that affects us, apart from romantic relationship, the relationship that can really affect you because it affects plus your livelihood is work. Yeah, and I say it because I went through it and I had to get some help through it, and I've seen so many people go through PTSD from work. So this is so important. Yeah. All right. I'm looking at the clock. So let me go into happiness, happiness, happiness. So Bernard, you say it is a state of being free and able to choose what my mind directs me for the peace of mind. Yes, peace of mind is everything. Happiness is being relaxed without stress, anything stressing you or pressure. Being able to work without eggshells. Oh, hugs, mama. Yes, I hear you. Yeah. So you're currently dealing with a very toxic boss. I've seen her nag and push people to the wall and quit. Unfortunately, Catherine, it's true. People don't quit organizations, they quit bosses. Yeah. And, you know, I'd like to throw stones, but also I wonder why she's behaving that way. I wonder whether there can be some intervention. Yeah, there can be some way to get her to get help. I don't know whether HR can help or a fellow manager can help because, you know, sometimes when we think about managing upwards, we only think about our line manager and our boss's boss. Yeah, but we can also do it horizontally. Is there someone who can speak to her? Or is there a way you can whistleblow on that behavior? Yeah. Because normally, unfortunately, people who have issues, who have not healed, they bleed on everybody else. Yeah. Ooh, tribal boss. Maombi tele. Yeah. Maombi. Yeah. That's a bias that they have. And what I've seen with tribalism or any other bias, it really biases are a way to protect oneself. Yeah. So ask yourself, what is their unmet need there? Sometimes people are biased or racist or ethnic or tribalist because if someone comes from a different place, I don't know how to handle them. I don't know what they're coming with. Yeah. So something to think about there. What is their need there? Dealing with bosses who are bullies. And no one can help. So sometimes, you know, it's important to ask yourself, why is the organization keeping them? Is it because they are a top performer? Is it because they know where their bodies are? Yeah, you know, sometimes they have something over the boss's boss. Yeah, they have some custom car, they have some secrets. Yeah. So I think, first of all, bullies don't expect you to stand up for themselves, and you need to do this with wisdom. Yeah, you know, you can stand up for yourself without fighting directly back. Yeah. Um, so I had a boss who used to bully me, and in the beginning, I fought back and I paid the price. And I asked myself, surely, yeah, insanity is doing the same thing and getting the same results. So you have to also observe their tactics. You have to be wise. You know, corporate world means you have to be wise. You need to observe, how do they fight? Yeah. How about serving them a little bit with their own medicine? Yeah. Uh, and you can do this quite indirectly. So my boss, when he would be mad at me, he would keep quiet. So I learned, yeah, I'll be very quiet during meetings, only responding when I'm asked. And he learned very quickly that something is going on, and he sat up, yeah. So you have to think about and or even sometimes reverse psychology. That sometimes they make comments expecting a reaction from you, and maybe if you tend to react, don't react. Yeah. So you need to really learn your boss. You need to study their patterns of behavior, and sometimes you'll even be able to know, yeah, based on how they come. My boss used to have a deep line here on a bad day, very deep line here. On a good day, he would greet us, the door would be open. On a bad day, the office would be closed and would know, here we need to tread with care. So learn your boss, and then also ensure that you're pulling your weight. Because if you're not giving quality work, you're also contributing to that relationship. So but if it's something that is affecting your health, Mark, if it's affecting your well-being, start thinking about an exit strategy. And exit may not necessarily even mean from the organization. It could also mean to a different department. Yeah. Especially when no one can help. Yeah, I'm so sorry. That's tough. My boss was the head of HR. So where could I run to? Yeah. And ensure that you still have your A game. Let them not affect your brand. Very, very important. And also focus on what can I control in this situation. That's what makes people happy also. Yeah. How do you remain happy? Yeah. In a situation that is toxic. Yeah. Is focus on what do I have that's going well? Yeah. And what's within my control here? So I realized very quickly, I was putting all my energies and focusing all my energies on this, my boss, and I couldn't see that I had fantastic colleagues. I couldn't see that I had freedom. Yeah, in spite of his toxicity, he gave me autonomy and I could do my work, I could do things. So it's only when I had to deal with him one-on-one. Yeah. So also ask yourself, what are the things that are making me happy? Because what we focus on grows. If you're only focusing on the negativity, it tends to color everything else. Yes. But think about an exit strategy, especially if they're your direct line manager, and say, can I move to a different department? Can I do some other work? Yeah. Can I also reduce interaction with him? There are so many ways to exit that relationship. Yeah. Happiness, being grounded in self-awareness, acceptance, mastered managing self. Yeah. And I think really self-mastery is a journey. Emotional intelligence is a muscle. It's like, so I'm on a fitness journey and I can tell you, Carol does 8, even 10 kilometers. Mimi, I'm still in 3.2 kilometers. I'm trying to push to 5 kilometers, 6 kilometers. It's a muscle. So consistently, self-assessing, beginning and beginning again. Yeah. So happiness, for us to be happy in spite of all the challenges, ask yourself, what am I grateful for? Gratitude is such a big predictor of happiness. Yeah. Who adds to my happiness? Ooh, your circle matters so much. I am very jealous of my time. Yeah. So, so I look for many carols in my life, and I'd rather have 2 carols, 3 carols, or none at all. So who do you have? Who is pouring into your cup? Yeah, and it cannot just be you pouring out. Self-care, so important. Yeah, and then looking out for the things that make you happy, because sometimes we get so much into work mode. Yeah, and one last thing. Yeah, and then I'll let you, Carol. I think we still have 2-3 minutes. Is when something happens in your day, so you've had that customer bring in the coffin or come with their lawyer, or you've had that customer, I was going to forget that question, on social media, who has raved and ranted, and by the way, that customer, make sure immediately, within 15 minutes, 30 minutes, you have responded, so just, reassure them and then take it offline. You cannot put all the details there. You cannot be, giving them tricks and tips on a public platform. So de-escalate, placate, and then take offline. Make sure that they're taken care of and make sure that your response is light-hearted and respectful. I don't know if you've seen how some of these big brands, Safaricom or KCB, deal with it in a very, humorous way that diffuses the emotions. And then make sure you deal with that customer immediately so that they don't blow things out of proportion. But it cannot be that one incident that happened in 2 minutes, 5 minutes, has ruined your entire day. You can't say I'm having a bad day and it was just a bad 5 minutes. So very important. Okay, I've said many things, Carol. Please
Yeah,
talk. I
you
can
have
talk
said
and talk and
many
talk.
things. You have said many things. I promise people here that it will be power packed. I can see we even need session 2 just for purely Q&A. so that
Yeah.
we can share. This is almost like therapy. You know, I'm listening to you
Yeah.
and you're saying, don't let that one thing ruin my whole day. And sometimes I walk around, you know, just that one thing has caused me, not even a day. I am taking it to my prayer group, all this, or I'm just carrying the thing everywhere. So I'm really picking that. You've also talked to us about needs. What's the need? What's the boss's need? What's the customer's need? What is
Yeah.
my colleague's need? That part for the need, I think if we crack that part, we'll
Yeah.
be able to handle all customer situations significantly better.
Yeah.
And by far the most important thing you've said is know ourselves, understand ourselves. What brings me joy? What triggers me? What causes me grief? I need to understand myself. I will not be able to handle things emotionally
Yeah.
intelligently the way that I should. Boundaries, boundaries, boundaries.
Boundaries.
There's
Yeah.
a beautiful book on boundaries. I think we should all read it. Maybe we'll share it in
Mm-hmm.
the we'll share it in the group so
Mm-hmm.
that we can all
Mm-hmm.
have it. And then the last thing, Rose, because it's already 2 o'clock and we need to
I
close, is
can't believe
you
it.
said that whoever is emotionally tone deaf is a man with money and a woman in
In
love. Me, I
love.
want the
Yes.
love, I want the money, I want everything. Bring it on, bring it on. I will develop emotional intelligence. Uko bere. So yeah, the love, the money, everything. But I think we need to be very aware of the state we are in so that we
Yeah.
can then be more emotionally intelligent. So good
Yeah.
people, we've come to an end. Please join our WhatsApp platform. I'll send the link on the group. Once again, invite people. I'll also send it on email. Thank you so much, Rose. We need part 2. Really, we do. We do. You must make a comeback. And
I will
we need to
come back.
discuss these things and share with each other and support each other. Most
Yeah.
importantly, let's
Yeah.
support each other. I can see everyone agreeing with me about part 2.
Send the
All
questions. Send
right.
the questions. Send the
All
questions in
right.
advance.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Thank you,
Thank you.
everyone. Have a
Thank you.
beautiful afternoon ahead. Thanks for
Likewise.
coming. Let's keep in touch and get moving with emotional intelligence. Thank you, Rose. Thank you,
Welcome.
everyone. You are free to leave
Okay.
and to go and have a wonderful afternoon. Bye. Thanks for coming. Be blessed.
Bye.
Asanteni
Bye.
sana. Thank you, Rose. It's been amazing. Yeah.
Anytime. Anytime. Yeah.
Bye, good people. Thank you. Thank you, Kathy. Thank you, Donna. Thank you, Ruth. Yeah, I'm seeing the needs for part 2 in the chat. Yeah, we will.